Since 2003, this is The Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you joining us today. I know there are a lot of Titans fans out there, probably in a good mood today. We're going to talk a lot about Tennessee basketball and football. The Vols eke out a win yesterday. We'll look at them in big picture. And, of course, since about the 4-minute mark of the Gator Bowl, everything has been coming up roses for Jeremy Pruitt, the Tennessee Volunteers football program. We'll talk about all the positivity, the roster moves, people staying, people coming, all that stuff coming up in a packed show today. First segment of this packed show brought to you by our friends at Phoenix Conversions. So many East Tennessee businesses rely on a fleet of vehicles. Full-size trucks, pickups, vans, you got to have them. You want them looking right, but you also need them to do what you need them to do. Phoenix Conversions allows you to do that. They make sure you can carry what you need in an organized fashion to make yourself more efficient as a business. Talk to them this week. You can find out more about them at phoenixconversions.com. You see it on the screen. But chat with them this week. You'll be very impressed. They've only been doing this since 1987. I was in high school back then. That tells you how long these guys have been doing it. Phoenix Conversions. All right. I want to welcome in the first wave of panelists we have today. Right here, Josh Ward from WNML. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Mark Pankratz, former Division I basketball player and former Vol assistant basketball coach. Thank you. Right there, longtime sports writer and longtime member of this panel, Chuck Cavaleris.
It's right next to the sharp-dressed man.
Yeah, that's a good
I
looking
was
jacket.
5 in 1987 when you were in high school.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Mark.
I was in diapers, just to be clear on this.
Good. No checks for these two. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about, let's start with yesterday's Tennessee victory at Thompson Bowling Arena over South Carolina. The Vols get the win 56-55. It wasn't pretty. They were cold again. Shot 25.9% from field goal range, 19.4% from three-point range, and basically they shot the exact same percentages first half and second half. So it wasn't like one half dragged the other down. 19 turnovers. That's not what you're looking for. South Carolina owned the paint, 28-14. Not a huge surprise there. Vescovi, Pember, Fulkerson. And kudos to Pember, but only 3 Vols finished in the positive in the plus-minus rankings yesterday. Now, on the good side, John Fulkerson. Nice day. 15 points, 10 rebounds. Took a charge late that kind of saved the thing with a 1.4 seconds to go. Good game from him. And the Vols won this one at the free throw line. There were a lot of people barking throughout the game, as usual. Whatever fan base you're talking about, the refs are always cheating you. But there were a lot of complaints about the refs. Hey, you went to the line 28 times, and you knocked down 22 of them. End of the day, you won a 1-point game with 22 free throws. So you needed them, and that's, in my opinion, that's where you won the game. But I'm going to turn it over, first of all, to Josh and Chuck, and then we'll let Mark come in back clean up on this. 2-0 this week. They get the win at Missouri. They come back. They struggle at South Carolina to get the win. That's a game better than I expected. I thought they would split this week. Your thoughts on what you saw yesterday, your thoughts on this week. Josh, I'll let you go.
Would they be 2-0 this week without Santiago Vescovi?
No.
No way, right?
No.
He makes plays late in the game against Missouri where they go on a run. He was a big part of that. You see the plus side. He hit shots at the free throw line. They needed the depth in the backcourt. They needed somebody that can make plays. He's doing that. John Fulkerson was right to kind of pull him out as well with the win against South Carolina because of what he was able to do. They needed guys to step up, and it wasn't pretty, but those guys did that.
Yeah, and it's pretty much, it is what it is now with this Tennessee basketball team. I mean, they show the stats there, at courtside, and you're consistently under 30% from the field. You're having all of these turnovers. That's not the recipe to win ball games,
They had been hitting their threes the last couple of games, against LSU that didn't win the game. They hit some threes, hit a lot of threes against Missouri. You even thought that Jordan Bowden might have shot himself out of his slump. Not so much. Mark, you're going to talk a little bit later in the show about maybe a fix or two that you'd like to see them try in terms of that offense. But your thoughts on yesterday's ball game?
Well, first and foremost, a win, right? 2 SEC wins. You beat a Missouri team that goes to Florida and beats a Florida team last night. So you can't ever take away the win. But a lot of it you are seeing this team is who they are now. And so Fulkerson continues to have a really good year. I was impressed by Pember's minutes. And Pember goes 2 for 2 from the free throw line, knocks down a three-pointer, but drove the ball to the basket. Offensively did well. Defensively couldn't guard a 5-year-old out there off the dribble. He really struggled on the defensive end, but he added really positive minutes offensively. And then other guys like Vescovi, we don't win those games without Vescovi. Points in the paint. We went 6 for 31 from 3. Took 52 shots, 31 of them are from 3. We don't have a guy that can make the game easier for other people and getting them shots. We had 19 turnovers to your point earlier, only 10 assists, and so only 3 fast break points. And so our team, if we're making perimeter jump shots, we're going to score enough points to win because our defense is pretty good. But if we're not making perimeter jump shots, and if we don't shoot the way we did from the free throw line, we're going to struggle to win basketball games.
Yeah, and you go back and you look first of the season, you think, well, you don't have anybody but Lamonte Turner at that position, and we were hoping when the announcement was made that Vescovi was coming in, we thought, well, maybe he can help a little bit. Maybe he can take a few minutes away. And Rick Barnes, we were even being positive. And Rick Barnes said 2 weeks before he got here, yeah, he's probably not going to play.
It was unlikely that he was going to play for Tennessee.
And now this kid is kind of your savior. But you do wonder, if ifs and buts. But if Turner had come back, hadn't had the shoulder issues, and you get Vescovi, how much? If you were getting last year's Lamonte Turner and you add in Vescovi, I would feel a lot better about this team. But right now, the fact that you won 2 games this week, basically because you had a guy arrive from Uruguay in the middle of the year,
via Australia.
That's pretty fortunate. That's not the kind of break. And you're just living on a razor's edge right now with this basketball team. One sprained ankle with as short a bench as they've got, this thing could go south quick, I'm afraid.
And I wonder if anybody else just felt like that game was pretty much decided by whose home court it was being played on. If you were playing at Columbia, South Carolina, I don't think Tennessee wins that game. And I think
you might not get 28 free throws.
Yeah. Well, and John, you were saying that the crowd was barking at the refs. I think they were barking at the way South Carolina was playing defense. There was a lot of grabbing and pushing and things going on that they were letting go, and then they were calling some things. But, I mean, and Rick Barnes pointed that out. That's just the way South Carolina plays. They want to play like that.
That's a Frank Martin team.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Bowden more specifically. Let's put up his numbers. And I credit our friend Vince Ferrara from WNML with this as well. He came up with the bottom number there. Yesterday, Bowden 1 of 17. And again, he had a better night. He shot 40% from the floor against Missouri. But 1 of 17 yesterday, 1 of 12 from the three-point. I feel bad for the guy. Look at the last 3 games at Thompson Bowling, and Vince is the one that did the numbers here. 4 of 42, 3 of 26. I don't know that I've ever seen somebody who we know is a better shooter than that go through that kind of a struggle. Mark, have you seen anything in his motion, in his shot, that has changed from year to year?
No, if you remember when, and it's a different circumstances, but remember Chris Lofton was going through his cancel battle, and he was a great shooter, and all of a sudden people are like, man, what's happened? He couldn't shoot it for the first half of the year. I don't think it has anything to do with the mechanic side of it, but then all of a sudden he starts questioning mechanics, and so it starts all with the mental side of it. That's why I think you saw him play. You mentioned if they were on the road, they probably would have lost that game. Maybe this team is at a place where they've got less pressure, specifically Bowden, when they're on the road. He's not at home playing in front of family and friends, and he can go to Missouri and knock down a couple more shots, because I do think it's not mechanical. I think it starts all between the ears.
Do you think you go to him and say, would it be better coming in as the 6th man? Not that we're benching you from the starting lineup. Take a little bit of the pressure off.
The Garantano treatment.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, he's had experience in that position. He's putting the pressure on himself to be a playmaker,
right,
and which he is not. I mean, you look at those stats. How many of his shots have been from 3? I mean, you've said, 36 of his 42 shots have been from 3?
26 of his 42.
26. So
12 of 17 yesterday.
He's trying to do too much, and he doesn't have anybody on the floor that makes the game easier for him to get easier shots. And so it's a snowball effect, and I hope that they can continue to work through the offense to find ways.
And one last thing, guys. I was counting yesterday how many shots Tennessee were taking that were coming up short. Front of the rim, front of the rim, front of the rim. You can't let the front of the rim beat you. But it's consistent. I don't know if that's tired legs already or if there's an explanation for that. But watch next time Tennessee plays. If the players that are in this slump consistently are not getting the ball over the front of the rim.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You had yesterday Bowden, Pons and Johnson, I believe, are like 1 of 28 combined, or 1 of 29 combined, and you still got to win.
Yeah, that's the good. You get the win with that still happening, which seems hard to believe. But are those breaks going to continue to go your way? You're also going to play better teams in SEC play. The two teams from Columbia they're not the best teams in the SEC, not even close.
We're going to break that down a little later. This is the easy part of the schedule. I mean, it gets considerably tougher as you go on. The end of the schedule is just brutal.
Keep in mind, South Carolina beat the #1 team in the country, Virginia. So basketball is just so different than
again,
football.
Missouri
This year,
loses
especially in
Tennessee,
college
and then-
hoops, there is so much up
So
and down
much
this year.
parity.
Yeah.
Well, Missouri losing to Tennessee and then going and whipping Florida. I mean, it's
Scoring
you don't know what
91
you're gonna
points
get
in the
game to
process,
game.
yeah.
All right, when we come back, Vol offensive lineman Trey Smith guaranteed himself a place in Tennessee lore by announcing he's coming back for his senior year. Is that the decision that the panel here would have made? We'll discuss that and a whole lot more about Trey Smith next. Come on back on the Sports Source.
Thanks for choosing us to entertain
Complete with tension and biting humor.
and inform you. This is the Sports Source.